In a previous video, I talked about habits of a systems thinker. In this video, I'd like to walk through a mind map that was developed by Victor Volkov, based primarily on an article by Barry Richmond called Systems Thinking Critical Skills for the 90s and Beyond. And it's put together looking at a number of different thinking perspectives that one should adopt and continue to develop a skill at employing. So the first one is creative thinking, to be able to look at things and essentially get outside of the box, look at things differently from different perspectives, so that rather than getting locked in all of the old perspectives that one has had all along for looking at things, to actually look at it differently, more creatively, to develop new views, sort of look at things with new eyes. And so it talks about using de Bono's lateral thinking and doing brainstorming and using TRIZ, developing mind maps and concepts. Just go at the situation differently than you have in the past to give you a different view of things. And I talked about that in the systems thinking habits of a systems thinker, to look at things, the idea that multiple perspectives and figuring out how to make sense of multiple perspectives at the same time, as opposed to it's either this or it's that. More often than not, the best answer comes from figuring out how to make sense of this and that rather than this or that. Scientific thinking, to do analysis, to take things apart, to understand the pieces and figure out how to formulate hypotheses and then test the hypotheses based upon actually looking at and working with things, as opposed to just basing your just coming to conclusions based on unfounded assumptions. Nonlinear thinking, realizing that when you're dealing with systems, things are seldom linear. The time, cause and effect are separated by time and space, and because of the feedback, the results are almost always not linear. So don't expect them to be linear. Operational thinking, in terms of the system acts in a way that makes sense from the way that the system is designed. I think I've often said that systems are perfectly designed to produce the results they produce. It's just usually not the results that someone would like them to produce, though one has to understand the nature of the system and the way that it's operating if one is to interact with it so that it operates to produce a better result in the future. System is cause rather than place the blame. Look for someone to place the blame. I worked in numerous large organizations where anytime there was a problem, the first thing to do was figure out who to blame for the problem, as opposed to actually looking for what is it that's responsible for causing the situation to be the way that it is, and looking at the patterns over time and the structure and the underlying mental models of the stakeholders that are responsible for the structure being the way it is, so that the idea is to evolve the system, the nature of the interactions within the system, so that tomorrow it produces a result better than the result that it produces today. The 10-kilometer view, which is also referred to at times as the big picture view, which I prefer to refer to as the relevant picture view. Don't get mired in the details. Step back far enough to look and attempt to understand all of the interactions that are relevant to the situation, so that you see it says here, you see the forest and the trees, you see the elements that interact, and you see all of the elements that interact to cause the situation to be the way that it is. And closed loop thinking, understanding that because the reason that things are nonlinear is because of the feedback that operates within the context of the system. Systems thinkers understand that it's feedback that has more influence on the way that the system operates than external influences, so that one seeks out the balancing and reinforcing feedback paths within the system, which creates loops, and understand that the reinforcing loops, which are responsible for growth, and the balancing feedback, which is responsible for structures pursuing goals, to seek out and identify those feedback loops that are the major cause of the system behaving the way that it does. And dynamic thinking, specifically realizing that a static picture of the system is really of little value. It's been said that it is beyond our human mental capacity to intuit the implications of two simultaneous feedback loops operating at the same time. Well, that's sort of definition of simultaneous, isn't it? That we're incapable of intuiting the implications of those two feedback loops. Personally, I think it's more like one feedback loop with a delay involved in the situation someplace. So that one builds an awareness of what the structure of the system is, to realize that it's a dynamic system which is evolving over time based upon all of the interactions and the feedback loops. And more often than not, the only way to get a valid understanding of the implications of all of those interactions is to do dynamic simulations of the environment. And when you propose to make changes to that system with the intent of it operating differently tomorrow than it does today, doing simulations of those changes is about the only way that one can get a solid handle on the real implications of the proposed changes. So this is a mind map based upon Barry Richmond's article. I've continued to find this mind map very useful, and I hope you found it informative also. And I'll see you in another video.